Now, this is a question which has come in from our international audience. It's a question which comes from the institutional level in Belarus. The question is from Yuri Tsarek, who is the head of the Belarus Development Group. The question reads as follows. It is obvious that a new world financial order based on the credit systems of sovereign nation-states can be formed under the condition of the great powers' transition to credit systems and national banking, and reaching the necessary agreements between them regarding great infrastructure projects and the respective sovereign credit to finance them. But, in present conditions, when there is no such system, what should be the policy of smaller nation-states, such as, for example, Belarus, Ukraine, or Serbia? Is it possible to reach any agreements regarding infrastructure development in the present monetary financial order? What are the opportunities and limitations for introducing a credit system in a country with a considerable external trade deficit?
Well, I have addressed that question specifically in those countries, and there's no doubt that this could be done. What's required is simply as much agreement among nations as possible. If you have several nations, each of which is a relatively smaller nation or weaker nation, and you combine these people as a common force, under present conditions, you have a fighting chance of winning. If you just sit there and take it and say we can't do anything about it, you're gone. But the point is, we've often had the case, as in the American Revolution, every other great movement for humanity, that some people have risked their lives or even sacrificed them in order to defend mankind against these types of horror shows. And they have to be respected for doing that. But if they don't have the guts to do that, then they're not respectable. That's the point. The obligation of the human species is, first of all, to do something to defend the human species and to promote its development. And if people will not base themselves on that principle or that commitment, they're not worth much. And we'll have to go to other people to find people with the guts and honor to do what's necessary. We're in that time. We're not in a time where mere opinions and the swing of opinions from one aspect to another can change the course of history. It cannot be allowed under these circumstances. There is an imperative, a moral imperative, which lies here. That moral imperative outweighs anything else. And anyone who doesn't support the moral imperative is guilty. If you will not defend your fellow man, you're not worth anything. And that's the reality of this situation. I think that by making clear and putting right under the nose of people exactly what their cowardice represents, their failure to get out there and fight to stop this horror show. If they won't stop the horror show, then they're criminals. Maybe criminals because of cowardice? Yeah, but that's still a criminal in this case. No, the fact, I think the conditions are such. Western and Central Europe are in what appears to be a hopeless situation. Portugal, Spain, Italy, so forth, Greece, so forth, are being murdered. And nothing in Europe is being done to stop that. Nothing. So those nothings who are doing nothing to defend the rights of human beings in nations, they've got nothing coming to them. And cowardice is not a virtue. It is not a valuable commodity that you can enjoy. No, the time has come that people have to stand up. As in France, the resistance against the Nazis in France, for example, it was a fight, but they did it. They fought. And they were fighting, under terrible conditions often, saved Europe from horrors. So the fact that something is frightening does not mean you have the justification for not opposing it. As a human being, you are responsible to humanity, not just to yourself. If you're not useful to your fellow human being, you're not useful. If you cannot defend your fellow human being, you're not worth it. In other words, there are costs and risks which people and nations take in order to gain the freedoms which are essential to them now. And you cannot be crawling around like stinking cowards under the sewer pipe, which is what many people have been doing. They've come to the point that if we stand up for them, which we are doing, and other people join us in standing up for the same thing, we have a fair chance of accomplishing the task. Because everyone out there, despite their cowardice, knows that this is true, or will admit it when they get their guts up. And that's the situation. We're in a crucial moment of history. We're not only, it's a question of choices. Forget this so-called choices stuff, democratic choices. The question is, there are certain things you must do if you're a decent person. And that's a law. You must do it. Or you must do something in that direction. You must make a contribution to that cause. That's how nations were created, by that. We're now at a point where we cannot submit to crimes against humanity, when we know they are crimes against humanity. And it's the choice we have. It's a choice we must make. And I think we have, at this moment, in this short interval of history, I think we have the opportunity to accomplish that. It just takes enough people with the insight and guts to do the job.